Welcome to Channel AMEC, your insight to the Australian visa system. Good day everyone, my name is Cao Yang, your online YouTube visa consultant. Are you interested about migrate to Australia? Why don't you consider to subscribe to my channel and turn on the bell on the side, so once we have all the updates and news, be the first one getting all the insight. Now today's video, it's all about answering a commonly asked question. Now there has been a lot of the skill migration interest, leaving on the comment or email perhaps, asking whether or not while holding a student visa, obviously that means you are studying full-time in Australia, would that be worthwhile to actually put in a skill select EOI? Now what does that mean? That means basically there will be a couple scenarios here. One will be perhaps you have already achieved some sort of career portfolio, and then you are looking forward to advance your study or your qualification in Australia. So that generally will be people that are studying master courses or perhaps a PhD degree. And whilst you are studying master or PhD or whatever the research that you're doing, obviously you deem to have those kind of skill, because if you don't have those kind of skill or background, the university wouldn't even allow you to actually study those postgraduate courses, correct? So at that point of time, can you, whilst holding a student visa and studying in Australia, lodge a skill select EOI? Now the answer to that question is pretty easy. Of course you can. Now what can you do and what should you do? And obviously at the end of this video I'll talk about how another kind of situation could actually get this done as well. So alright, as general rule of thumbs for skill migration Australia, now it will be really worthwhile to actually take a skill assessment. So migration skill assessment, whether or not the occupation depends which occupation that you are in. So the way that you can actually identify that is basically going to Google, or perhaps you're using Bing nowadays, because it's very commonly a lot of people are using the chat GPT, right? But all you need to do is you go on Google and you punch in home affairs, and then you space with a skill occupation list. So you should be able to land yourself into this web page, which I'm gonna show you right away. Here we go. Okay, you should be able to find yourself in this web page, and all you need to do is scroll down to the search engine and punch in your occupation, whichever that is. At the right hand side, it will indicate which skill assessing authority that you're required to go there for. Okay, so whilst you're studying in Australia for the postgrad, master or PhD, get your skill assessment done as well, and make sure that you also get your work experiences, evidence of your work experiences, for example tax payable pay slips, and the reference letter from your previous or past employer, putting into the skill assessments, and then you have a result. Now obviously I assume that you get a positive result, because if you do get a negative result, that basically means you cannot even be qualified in the skill select the EOI. So once you get that done, obviously you also have your English test proficiency. I presume that you would have, because whilst you are applying for your master or PhD degree, generally saying the university should ask for your English proficiency result anyway, or evidence. So with all that together, put that into the skill select EOI, and of course you're aiming at least 65 points. Now the only shortfall here is if you have not studied in Australia previously, that means meeting the Australian study requirement, that means 2 years of study, because you're currently studying, so obviously you probably haven't really had any past study in Australia. So the only shortfall of that is that you wouldn't meet that requirement, and that you wouldn't have that points added into your skill select EOI. EOI. However, you're more than welcome to put in multiple, because whichever the state that you're in, you would like to also put a state nomination that's 190 EOI in there as well, so you get that extra point to be added, whether or not it's going to be 190 or 491 in order to meet that 65 point mark. So so the answer to the video of the question is that yes, whilst you're holding a student visa, you can always put in a skill select EOI there. Now, there's another scenario. What if your study is not a postgrad? What if your study is on a trades or bachelor degree? Now, the shortfall here is probably, I think 70 or 80% you won't even meet the skill assessment requirement. Why do I say that? Well, because generally a skill assessment result or criteria require you to have a qualification and your work experiences. So if you're only studying bachelor or perhaps a trades degree, that will probably mean more than 50% the chances that you probably haven't had any previous qualification, or your previous qualification is totally not aligned with your current study or experiences or work experiences. So if that is the case, I would say generally 70% plus the chances that you're getting a skill assessment probably will be a negative. So if you get a negative skill assessment, obviously that's a mandatory requirement for skill migration. So unfortunately, that won't be the way to go. So for the scenario of people holding a student visa whilst can also submit a skill select EOI, more likely to be people that study master degree or a PhD degree. Anyway, the sooner you get the permanent residency or the visa, well, the sooner the better. You could continue study, and also whilst you're holding a new, a 189 or 190, that's a permanent residency, your fees of the tuition fees will drop down dramatically anyway. Should you have more question, query, more than welcome to leave comment right down below, and I'll see you next video. Goodbye.